We are working with Excel and we are finally solving question 6b. We need to create now an Excel plot with two y-axes. So let's go to Excel. This is actually rather simple. And we have here the plot that we created for question 6a. And we are going to use exactly this plot for question 6b. Simply select the plot, go Ctrl C, and then Control V, so we keep a copy. I'm going to put this right here. And I'm going to use this plot to create the plot with two y-axes. So what we need to do is actually we need to send the data for experiment 2 to a secondary y-axis. We are going to do that by selecting the data. You just click on the data. That's how the data looks when it's selected. And then you click the right button of the mouse and you are going to select Format Data Series. And then you are going to select Secondary Y-axis. By doing this selection, if you saw, it happened rather quickly, we can now see the behavior of both sets of data. So after you have selected secondary Y-axis, secondary axis, close. And now we have a plot that looks much better. Yes, we need to fix the formatting, but we can actually see the behavior for experiment 1, for the data for experiment 1, and we can also see the behavior for the data for experiment 2. Now, we have two y-axes. Experiment 1 is being plotted in the primary y-axis, and experiment 2 is being plotted in the secondary y-axis. So we need to add the proper title for both y-axis, and we also need to change the title for the plot. We can call this one plot with two y-axes. Okay, now let's fix the formatting or the title for the y-axis. Click on the plot. We can bring the plot a little bit in so we can see this. And as I mentioned, the primary y-axis is the data for experiment 1. So we can start typing experiment 1 plot. This is the proper title. I can even copy this by highlighting Ctrl C. And I'm going to be using that text now for experiment 2. So if we click on the plot, that brings the chart tool. We can go to layout. Then we select axis title, and this time we are going to select the secondary vertical axis title, and we are going to select rotated title. So this is what I'm selecting: secondary vertical axis title, and then a rotated title. And as you can see, I just got the title that I need. I can by simply can click here. Well, I can bring the plot in so we can see this better. I have the title, and if you select this just with the mouse and you highlight it, you can just do Ctrl V as in Victor, and that will paste the text that you have. Ctrl V. A little too large, no problem. Decrease to font size 14. And this is the data for experiment 2. So we are almost there. This is a little bit better. Now what we need is to fix the numbers in the y-axis. So let's go with the primary y-axis. This is the data for experiment 1. And as we can see, for experiment 1, we actually need scientific notation. So let's go and do that. We select the labels on the axis just by clicking on it. Then with the right button of the mouse, we go Format Axis. Then you go to Number, and you're going to select Scientific. And we might be okay. Let's see, with 1 decimal place. So I went Scientific, 1 decimal place. Let's go and look. Yeah, that actually I think it's gonna work there. Fine. Maybe no. I think we are going to be okay actually with no decimal places. So we can select right button of the mouse, format axis, number, and decimal places, 0. Yeah, this is all what we need. So this is the correct formatting for the data for experiment 1. The size of this label is 11. So let's go and do that for the secondary y-axis. Select this, 11, and also bold. And as you can see, we don't need scientific notation for the secondary y-axis. And we don't need all these zeros. So simply select the data, select the labels, I'm sorry. Just by clicking on them, I select them. Right button of the mouse, format axis, go to number, and I think we can just select number. And perhaps, let's see, 1 decimal place might be enough. Close. And I think this is okay. We can put 2 decimal places like we have in here, but we actually have an extra. This is okay. Bring it here. We can move the legend. If you look at this plot, it's actually ready. We know that in this y-axis, we have experiment 1. We know that in the secondary y-axis, we have experiment 2. All the axes have proper titles. All the labels, which is these numbers, are really nice. They're bold. We can see them very clearly. This is a professional engineering plot. As you can see, the data is displayed in a very clear and organized manner. So we are ready. We can just select the plot, go Control C. We can go back to Word. Select all these by selecting the space where the plot is gonna go. Go home, then paste the special, enhance meta file. Okay. And then we can center the plot, and if you went to the second page, just make it a little bit smaller. And as you can see, we now have the 2 plots. Let me zoom out. This is problem 6, and this is centered. This one is also centered. We can just make the top plot a little bit smaller, and I'm gonna move the margin so they have exactly the same location. And with this, we have finished problem 6. As you can see, we have the normal plot that only has one y-axis and doesn't allow us to see the behavior of the data for experiment 1. And here we have the plot with 2 y-axes in which we can clearly see the behavior of all the data that we have. We have finished with this assignment 8.